Now live. I'm going to take the comments. I'm going to disable the comments, turning off commenting. And here I am. Here we are. Okay, do they want to come on and do a test?
Yes, she said they.
Okay. Oh, I cannot hear anything. Hang on a second. Let me see what we can't hear anything.
Can you hear me now?
Go, yes. Now we can hear you.
You can hear me. Okay.
Woody, say something. Can you hear him?
Yeah, I can. It is because, and I can see that I'm out of sync.
But having said that, it's still the greatest day of your life, isn't it? Being on Instagram.
Yeah, not sure what Instagram is, but now you only see a part of my face, right?
They should back the camera off a little bit. The camera's too close.
Uh,
Hang on, let's try
Should
this.
slide it back a bit so it's more of a bust shot. Here we go. That's great. That's fine. That's fine.
Far.
What is Instagram? Instagram is the Radio City Music Hall of the millennial generation.
okay, but I'm not good at that stuff. I'm not into Instagram or I know I have a Facebook page, but I've never visited it, nor would I know how to. It's somebody else handles it for me.
Of course, as it should be. Now, are
It's
we?
not my idea because I don't know what it does exactly.
Well, one example. You can hear me, right?
Yeah, sure.
Well, one example. I thought, and we're not live yet. I don't think. Are we live, Emily? If I'm right now, are you watching? Are we live?
Yes, you are.
We're live. Okay, we're live. So we'll just ramble. Because we start at 10:30, I'm going to introduce you. But
No,
I thought that the relaxation of marijuana laws in New York would result in a kind of a Topanga Canyon-esque bacchanal of free thought and music and poetry and batik dresses and people gambling through the park. And instead, everyone is zonked out of their mind. They're numb. They're comatose, sitting on a bench in the park, staring at their phone. You know what I mean? Like intimacy has certainly taken it on the chin with social media. That's my biggest complaint against social media, is that everybody is like the what's the word, like the like the slab in 2001: A Space Odyssey that the monkeys are worshiping or puzzling over.
Well, I can't comment on social media because I really don't, I'm just not up on it. It's never interested me because I've never been interested in anything, any kind of gadgetry, cameras, tape recorders. Uh, they just don't interest me. I never have. So I never got into social media. Now, as I say, I have a Facebook page, but I don't know how to, I've never seen it. I wouldn't know how to access it. And I don't know what it does exactly or what benefit or problem it is for me. I don't know, but it's run by people who,
Who do
manage my business and they think it's important. So great.
Well, you also have to have, I'm going to sign off with you, Emily, and call you back. Bye. You also have what they call the placeholder, which is that you don't want someone else to co-opt your name, which I've had happen. Like in the dawn of Facebook and so forth and websites, you had to find the guy that had copyrighted your name. And the law prohibited you from demanding that you get your name. You had to buy it from him.
What do I care if he copyrights, if he name? I'm me, he's him, and he can say he's me, all the time.
Much healthier attitude.
You meet him, you'll be able to tell the difference immediately. And it doesn't matter if he does something illegal, we'll catch him, and
Right.
not
you, you have a much healthier attitude about it than I do. Now, let me ask you this as we begin here, and that is, when I read this book, it's been a while, and I'm talking about your new book, Zero Gravity, Woody Allen, Zero Gravity, for those folks out there. And it's been a while since I had to have my phone next to me to look up all the names and the references that I was not aware of. I mean, you really, and I'm wondering at what point, go ahead, you were going to say something? Go ahead.
I was going to say, my wife tells me the same thing. I can't believe that, only because was thrown out of school. I'm not erudite. I'm writing off the top of my head. In those pieces, they're a collection of pieces that have appeared in the New Yorker magazine, many of them, and I supplemented them with some that I wrote at home to kill time during the pandemic, and I put them together. They're meant to make people laugh, really, hence the title Zero Gravity. They have no substantial weight. They're just fun, you like a paper cup, you drink from it and throw it away. It's, but people tell me that there's, that they have to look up words now and then. This is not the worst thing in the world, but
No, it's not.
I don't find vocabulary particularly extensive, certainly no more than, than the average person's.
Well, the question that I have is, at what point in your life did you decide that, that you wanted to become, not that you aimed for this, but you are this connoisseur in this kind of writing, in these books you write, you are this connoisseur of words and references. And at what point in your life did that become attractive to you? How old were you when you yourself began to want to just expand your...
Always write, even as I could write, believe it or not, it sounds so ridiculous. I could write before I could read. I would make up stories. I couldn't write them down, but I could write. And I became a comedy writer because I had a sense of humor. And then I was always attracted to men and women who could write amusingly. Darcy Parker, Robert Benchley, James Thurber to a degree, and ultimately, I was introduced to S.J. Perelman, who is really the icon that I aspire to. I'm really like a road company Perelman. He was just the best thing that I ever read in terms of comedy. Hilariously funny, brilliantly imaginative. He just knocked me out. And over the years, I read everything that he wrote. And of course, like everyone in my generation, we all aspired to be published in the New Yorker, because that was the ultimate humor magazine. And I couldn't believe, when I was in my 30s, I guess, I wrote an essay, what they call in the New Yorker a casual. It's technically not an essay, and it's not a short story. I wrote it, and I was going to send it over to Playboy magazine, and Louise, who I was, I can't remember if we were married then or just going together, said, "This is very good, send it to the New Yorker." And I said, "The New Yorker will never print it." And finally, she talked me into it, and I sent it there, and they printed it. They wanted it, and I was stunned. I was knocked out that they did it. And it started a long relationship I had with them for years, and I wrote for the New Yorker for years. Now their humor is reduced. At that time, they were primarily a fiction and the arts and humor magazine, so we got a lot of space. Now they have very little space, so it's hard for me to have ideas that are good for them. Mine are always 3 pages too long. They've become a magazine.
Shouts and murmurs.
They're a great magazine, but they have refocused their interests on relevance, political and social relevance, which was not what they were. They were usually, short stories and poetry and comedy things, and so. But for years I wrote for them, and it was a great experience. And I've always loved written humor. I wanted to do written humor rather than be a stand-up comedian. And I always had this argument with my manager. Of course, he was right, and I presumed I was right, but he was right. I thought I could write something funny and just get up in a nightclub and read it, and people would laugh at it. And he was trying to explain to me that the audience embraces the person. It's the person that they're interested in. If they connect with you, if they like you, if they find you funny, then you will succeed at it. But if they don't, it won't matter. And I thought I could just get up and read. That's what I wanted to do, to write, to be a comic writer, to be a stand-up comedian. But, you try different things, and you're like,
is it safe to say,
and
is it safe to say that there's a period where, you've always written comedy, you've always written films and books and essays and things like that, and you did stand-up, and then performing stand-up comedy obviously stops. I'm assuming you always played music, but did you find that those two things transition, where no more stand-up comedy live, but I'm going to play music live, because you were more comfortable doing that?
No, the music thing is ridiculous. I'm an amateur jazz musician, New Orleans jazz, and I'm terrible at it. I'm not even good at my hobby, and I would do it. And if I wasn't known from my movies, if I didn't have a modest celebrity status, then I wouldn't have gotten any place. But people came more to see me in clubs, and they forgave my terribleness. And I played. I certainly gave it my all. I played with my heart out, and I practiced every day. I always practice, but it doesn't matter. If you don't have it, you don't have it. And I practiced and played, and I suddenly found not only was I playing just in living rooms, like a weekly poker game with other musicians, but we started to play in clubs and started to do concerts. I found myself playing for thousands of people in opera houses in Europe, and 5,000 people would be standing in the rain to hear us. And it was a phenomenal experience. I think the only positive thing that you can come away with there is, if you really love something and you do it with sincerity, there's a chance that you can communicate.
You broke up there. We lost him. Are you there? We froze. Can you hear me? Because you guys are frozen. Can you hear me? Hold on. Okay. Leonela! Leonela! Basta! Los paritas, basta! Las paritas, suficiente! Okay, let's do this.
Join it again. There we go.
Are you back? Okay. So, I lost you on a certain note there, but I want to say, so talk about the difference between writing a book like Zero Gravity and your autobiography, which I love your autobiography.
Oh, thank you. Yes, apropos of nothing came out.
We're losing him again. Are they in a room where they have the best Wi-Fi? Because this is the second time they've shut down now.
Yeah, I just texted Pamela.
No, they need to be in a room with like the best Wi-Fi in the house. What have they got going on there?
Okay, I don't know what's going on. I just opened a door. Maybe it'll make a difference. We can't hear you.
I can't hear
Yeah,
you.
we can't hear you yet.
Can you hear me?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Is your internet signal good?
Your internet. I think so. You know, we just opened a door. It might make a difference.
Okay. So the difference between writing apropos of nothing and Zero Gravity, is there a difference in the way you write a book?
There's a big difference because my autobiography took a long time. And by a long time, I mean over a year to write. I wrote a little and came back to it and remembered other things and came back. And you have to sustain interest for the reader, you know, for many pages, for a few hundred pages, several hundred pages. And I tried my best to do that, to make my autobiography entertaining and not just a parade of facts. He was born and like a Wikipedia. So but a book of casuals, a book like Zero Gravity, are just short, funny pieces. You get little inspirations now and then, and I write them. I hope that they're funny. It takes me, a week to write one, sometimes maybe even just 2 days to write one. And then I obsess over it for a little while and, send it in. But it's different. An autobiography is a much greater investment of time and effort and thinking. And someone once said to me a long time ago that the difference between writing a short story and a novel, say, it's not that a novel can be 10 times longer, but it's not 10 times harder. It's 100 times harder. I found that to be true. I tried to write a novel years ago, but it didn't come out too well. I mean, I wrote it, but it was not good. And one of the reasons it was not good was because I was not a reader as a child, and not being a reader, I didn't know about novels. I wasn't immersed in the world of novels. I was immersed in the world of show business. So I knew all about movies and show business and comedians and things like that. So when I went into that professionally, I just had an instinct for it that had developed over many years of my childhood. But I wasn't familiar with literature, and I didn't have a sense of narrative structure and characters, and it's just so I've just never been able to do it. I can write amusingly, and I do in these short things, which we call at the New Yorker they're called casuals. You know, it's interesting. They're not essays. People always call them essays, and they're not short stories. And they needed a name for them. This is long before I was maybe even born, for all I know. They needed a name for them at the New Yorker, and they called them casuals because allegedly they're casually written or at least casually read. And so there were those great casual writers for the New Yorker, like Perelman and Benchley, for example, two great ones. And so Zero Gravity is a book of casuals. And my greatest hope was that someone would take the book and read them. They don't have to be read in any particular order because they're not dependent on one another, and just to read them, enjoy them, to have some laughs. If you're interested in that, it's a limited kind of enjoyment.
But it's also like like in music, like an album. You can play a song, the song stands alone. You don't have to play the whole album. You can select something. What is the casuals section of the New Yorker now, I guess, is the Shouts and Murmurs, which is all just one page. I don't think there's any.
A little short for my style.
Yes, they're very short. They're very short. Yeah. Now, obviously, in Apropos of Nothing, which I devoured, I love that book, and I mentioned to you that one of the things I loved was how kind you were, and how detailed you were in remembering even some of the most minor characters in your career timeline. You were very respectful and very kind to people who you might have had one little interaction with them, but it was memorable to you or significant to you. And you name a lot of names of people that you interacted with in a very thoughtful way. And then I want to mention what I guess is the converse, which is your wife must know that when you write a book of casuals, you're going to give her the business a little bit every now and then. I mean, my favorite line is you say that her credit card was still glowing from the recent frictions of the credit. Did we lose the connection again? Are we going to mute?
Try it again.
Are we functioning?
So what I was saying is that in books like Zero Gravity, your wife obviously knows she's going to get a little of the business.
Yes.
You mentioned I think one of my favorite lines was her credit cards still glowing from fiction, from friction rather. I love that, and also in the dedication, you write. I have the dedication here, and of course, Soon Yi. If Bram Stoker had known you, he'd have had his sequel. Does she? She knows this is coming, obviously.
Yes, when I did, that was my second dedication to her. My first one in apropos of nothing. Originally, this Christmas we'll have been married 25 years, right. And I have nothing but affection for her. So when I wrote a dedication, I naturally wrote an affectionate dedication. She saw it and said, God, you're not going to have that, that treacly stuff, that gooey stuff, give me something nasty. And I gave her a different dedication in apropos of nothing. I can't remember what it was, but it was not syrupy.
Yes.
And
no.
I knew not to make a syrupy one here either, because she knows that in the world of comedy, as one would know from like friar roasts or things like that, roasts, the greatest mark of affection is to insult the other person, to roast the other person, and so I do that with her because she understands and wants it that way. It was many years ago, the comedian Jack Benny was known, he got a lot of comic traction out of being cheap. And they made a million jokes about being cheap. And when he was in New York and tried to tip a cab driver, the cab driver wouldn't take it from him because, it was contrary to that image. And it's the same thing here. They want to be on the fictional end of your relationship with them. And so I've done a million, I guess what you would call wife jokes, but none of them, particularly, laudatory.
Scathing, yeah, not mean spirited. Now, I did a TV series, and what was taught to me by Lorne Michaels and by Tina, not directly, but by implication or by just demonstrating that, network TV was harder to do because you can't go blue. Network TV, you can't say the F word. You got to find, 25 other ways to say what you want to say that don't violate broadcast standards as such as they are today. And so it's a tougher job, and I grew to respect that. I grew to respect that when you watch Netflix and you watch HBO comedy specials, it's a barrage of off-color language and imagery and very harsh as far as I'm concerned. And I would say the same is true for you. I know this is a dumb question, but has a character in a movie of yours ever said the F word? Or that, not that often, correct?
Yes, once or twice, but I always feel when you need to be what is called popularly dirty, or when you need to be graphic with some kind of a murder scene or something, then you should be that way. I haven't had the need for it. If the need ever arose where I needed that kind of, for instance, I always felt I needed it in my movie, Mighty Aphrodite. Now, I myself, being a prude and coming from a different generation, blanch when I hear that kind of stuff, but I had it used all through the movie. And so when I see that movie, it's always too dirty for me. If I did it over, I would try and do it more skillfully. But yes, I feel you have you should use whatever language you need freely to make any point you need. I just object to it when it's gratuitous, when you don't need it, when you could do it, you know, when you can do it more without, you know.
It's lazy. It's lazy.
All over.
I did a film. I did a film once, and I did a small part in Marty's film The Aviator, and I was playing Juan Tripp, who was the founder of Pan Am. Now his daughter, who was an older woman, she died a few years ago. She is my neighbor. She was my neighbor out here on Long Island, and I was introduced to her by mutual friends of mine. So when I went to her home, and she had read the script, I got her the scenes, I guess, of my scenes. And in one scene, when I'm getting bested by Howard Hughes about something, I say the F word. I'm looking at a globe and I shout, you know, fuck, when I'm there. And her name was Betsy DeVecchi. That was her married name, Betsy Tripp. And Betsy DeVecchi said, oh, she said, oh, Dad would never say that word. He would never say that word ever. Mm-hmm. So I went back to Marty and I said, his daughter kind of objected to it and said that her father would never use that kind of language. And it was a long pause. And Marty looked up at me and goes, I need you to say it. Just say fuck. I need you to say it. So it was like we're in Marty's world and Marty's in charge. So we do what we're asked. But I know about you that you don't cop out with that, you know.
No, but I use you know, that kind of language all the time at home. I mean, anytime I drop something, or if I drop my baked potato on my lap, or if I, you know, if I stub my toe, I'm a mass of furious, you know, cursing, and I do that all the time. But artistically, when I'm doing a film or a play or something, you know, it's like having a spice. You want to put it in when you need it for effectiveness, not when, you know, when it's used all the time just gratuitously. So that's my only feeling on it. And my feeling on it is not necessarily correct, but it's my feeling on it.
Whenever you play with those words, you know, they're in the helium factory or wherever they store the parade equipment, and the guy says, come on, who's the cheese eater?
Oh, right. Yeah, right.
And then you say, oh God, forgive me, Barney Dunn. Then they cut to the guys in the alley. Barney Dunn, he was the stuttering ventriloquist, he says. That is truly one of the few. I tell people, when I'm down, and I said this to you before we did the last interview, when I'm down, now there's things I can watch, even dark things that will intrigue me. I'll watch the movie. I have very few movies in a file in my computer, but I'll watch like In Cold Blood, because I think Richard Brooks is a great director. Mm-hmm. He had the courage to do the movie in black and white. The acting is seamless. It's a very harrowing story, and you're very upset because it's a true story, but it's such virtuosic acting. But I'm not going to watch that movie to take me out of the doldrums, you know what I mean? In my life, there is no one, and I mean no one other than you, who when I'm down, I just have to put on one of your films, and it's like the warm bath for me that just makes everything okay. When I watch those movies, when I watch Radio Days and Danny, all that, I mean, it changes my whole day. But anyway, I want to ask you, you've got another movie coming out this fall, correct?
A movie, the movie, no, I don't.
You're going to go make one this fall.
That movie is out. The Rifkin's Festival?
Rifkin's Festival.
Rifkin's Festival came out. It had a brief run in the movie theater during the pandemic. And then, like all the films that come out, went over to streaming. You can see it either on pay-per-view or streaming. I don't know because I don't follow any of them. But it's one of the things that, you know, it's one of the things that I feel discourages me from I've done 49 movies and I'm about to do maybe my 50th movie. And when the pandemic came, I was in the house like everybody else, petrified, hiding under the bed, and I didn't go out for months. And I couldn't make a movie that I had planned to make. And then after a few months went by, I started to think, gee, I like it under the bed. I mean, morning, and I don't have to go out. I don't have to make a film. I don't have to be cold in the winter or hot in the summer and up at 5 o'clock in the morning and making decisions all day long. You know, I'm home, and there's nothing I can do but my exercise, practice the clarinet, and write. So I was home writing a lot. I wrote a couple of plays. I wrote the supplementary material for Zero Gravity, and I thought to myself, what if I didn't make film? You know, this is a nice way to live. Then I thought, well, maybe I'll make one or two more. You know, I'm 86 years old, but I like staying home and writing. I'll probably make at least one more movie, but a lot of the thrill is gone because it doesn't have the whole cinema effect. You know, it isn't when I started, you'd do a film and it would go into a movie house, and movie houses all over the country, and people would come, you know, by the hundreds to watch it in big groups on a big screen. Now you do a movie, and, you know, you get a couple of weeks in a movie house, maybe 6 weeks, 4 weeks, 2 weeks, whatever. And then it goes right to streaming or right to pay-per-view. And people love sitting home with their big screens and watching on their television sets, and they have good sound and clear picture. But it's not the same as when I went into the movie business. And so it's not as enjoyable to me as it was. I don't get the same fun of doing a movie, putting it in a movie house. And, you know, and some of those movies I put in movie houses, they run for months in the movie house. Annie Hall ran and a half. You know, and it was a nice feeling to know that 500 people were seeing it at once, or 800.
And also that appointment you make, which is that, you know, now what people want is to press pause and go make a picture of martinis, and press pause and go get some more guacamole, and press pause and go make a phone call or go to the bathroom. They don't want to have, I should say, not that they don't want to have, they care infinitely less about experiencing the film in real time the way that the filmmaker intended. Years ago, not years ago, but a few years ago, you made an appointment to go into a room, and you got the Raisinets, and you got the popcorn, and you got the Dr. Pepper, and you sat down, and the whole thing unspooled in front of you in real time, and you ate it. You sat down and ate the meal whole. It wasn't interrupted all the time by complete attention span.
And not only that, where else in a city or small town in the middle of the daytime can you walk into a place and it's dark? It's great, totally dark. You leave the real world behind and you go to your seat, and there on a big screen is whatever, Humphrey Bogart or you know, Rita Hayworth or whatever you're watching, Fred Astaire. And the experience, it's hard to explain that. And someone else will say, yeah, but I'm home. I have my friends over. We're sitting on the couch.
They don't care.
Raining out. I can hit a button, see any movie I want. And it has gone in that direction, you know, before the pandemic. But the pandemic was like a final thing. And it's gone in that, you know. So I don't know. I don't know how I feel about making movies. I mean, I'm going to make another one, and I see how I.
You are going to make one this fall, correct?
I will make one this fall, yeah.
Is it in the U.S. or overseas?
Pardon me?
Overseas or in the U.S.?
No. I think I'll make it in Paris.
Got it.
You know, some years ago, I mean, I did so many films in New York. I don't want to have a sameness. I still did double back and make A Rainy Day in New York, but I made so many films in New York. And then I found that going abroad in London and Paris and in
Spain.
Spain, yeah, was such a delightful experience and refreshing for me that I started to do that, and it became a very enjoyable thing that I look forward to. Because my wife always looks forward to spending 3-4 months in Paris or London or Barcelona.
Yeah.
And we have many friends abroad, and so it's a nice experience. I yeah, but I don't know. I had so much. It was like being sick when you went to school from
Right.
the COVID thing happened. I was home.
Did you get COVID?
And I didn't get COVID, no, because I got every vaccination and every booster shot, and I stayed home.
I didn't get COVID either. Yeah.
I stayed home. I mean, I was never went out. That's how I got a lot of writing done.
Right.
And I say, I found I liked staying home. I liked, the hours of my own. I could write. I could play my clarinet when I wanted to, and that was one thing, the carrot and the stick. And on the other end was the fact that movies were not, all the movie houses were closing. All the art houses where I used to watch, Fellini and Bergman and Truffaut and all those movies that, they were closing. So I kind of feel, that yes, I will work again in film, but I might want to turn to writing and
Have other people direct the film?
yeah, I directed.
No, but what I'm saying is, would you write scripts and have other people direct the film?
Oh no, I wouldn't do that. I would write novels, I think. I plays. The only trouble with plays is I have the same whining complaint about the theater. When I was younger, you'd go to the theater district and it would be lit up and it would have one interesting play after the other, and it was just fun to go, and it was a tremendous amount of variety. And now the theater in the Broadway area, first because it's a dreadful mall, which was the worst idea in the world. It just killed the whole area. But all the shows are, like musical revivals and shows where you've got to get a star because they cost millions of dollars to put on. When I was coming up in the business, it was a treat to want to write for Broadway. If you wrote a sophisticated comedy or a regular show, it cost like $40,000 to put the show on. The same show today is millions of dollars. And of course, people get scared because they are risking a lot of money. So they want a movie star in it. And the movie star doesn't want to be tied to a show month after month. And so they come in for 3 months, and so you get these revivals of musicals, and there is no more Tennessee Williams and Arthur Miller and William Inge and Edward Albee.
Very little.
You don't have that. So, I'm on your show here. I'm complaining, but
But the thing about the theater is now it mimics the movie business. You have to have a tent pole, that term, that tired phrase. You have to have a tent pole actor, someone you can build the whole thing around. And, when I look at that on Broadway, when I see shows like Music Man, and Jackman is a phenomenally talented and charming guy. The good news is that a lot of people go to work. A lot of actors get jobs. A lot of union stagehands go to work.
Right.
Takers, people I'm always in favor of these hit shows and these runs economically because people are getting employed. I'll never forget one day I was sitting on a set of a film when I was very young, and a bunch of us were making fun of the kind of less than wonderful reviews of an Arnold Schwarzenegger film. And the producer walked up to us and he said, "Don't do that. and we just looked at him. We were kind of puzzled. He says, don't bash Arnold's films. He says, when Arnold makes a movie, 250 highly paid people in the movie business go to work. And number two, they peel off a vig off the top of that box office to develop other scripts for a movie that you might be in next year. So don't begrudge people's success. And I kind of took a little bit of that to heart.
One doesn't write a play and put a play on for to create employment.
Right.
You know,
That's
when Ted Williams wrote A Streetcar Named Desire, it was not, it was because you have an artistic vision, and
right.
and that's what it should be. I think when the theater was going strong and there were all those wonderful plays, there was a tremendous amount of employment because there were a lot of plays going. All those theaters were going nightly, and it was. I'm just saying, when I grew up, I wanted very much to be a playwright and write plays, and I still write plays occasionally, but it's not the same. It's just the world that I grew up in, the movie world and the theater world, the Broadway world, is not the same, and it's less pleasurable for me. So that combined with the experience of liking to be home and writing, enjoying my free time, and that, because I think to myself, if I write a play, there's no real theater activity of importance, and if I write a movie, I'll direct it and be 2 weeks in a movie theater, 6 weeks in a movie theater, and it'll be on television. I'm back writing for television, which I did 50 years ago. So I just don't get that same feeling. So it's possible I'll do more writing and more book writing. Maybe I will write a novel or something. I don't know. Right now, I am gearing up to do a film in the fall.
Now
the end of summer.
Yeah. Now so streaming TV of any kind, comedy, drama, or things you can't even describe, like Westworld, which for the life of me, I can't figure out what they're aiming for there. But but I watch some of it from time to time. But like, I love Bill Hader's show Barry, because I love Bill Hader. That show Barry, I really, really liked a lot. And but you don't watch any streaming TV?
I don't, not out of statement or anything.
Right.
I go out to dinner or have dinner at home, and after dinner, I watch the basketball game. I turn on the baseball game. I'm a big Yankee fan, a Knick fan. That's what I watch, and then I watch the news and Turner Classics. But I'm not moved to get into. I don't have the time. I don't. I just don't have the time to see the other.
I don't have the time for much of it, but I find that I'm 64 years old, and I have 6 kids, and we have another kid coming. So sometimes I watch TV just to take me to another land, even if only for 30 minutes, because I'm so overwhelmed by my children. Now, one last question I have for you is, and this is a silly question. It's a dopey question, but it's one I think of myself all the time. People will always ask me if I could go back or go through any period of time and work with anyone in film, director, actor, whatever. And I can, the list is a long one, but I never think of my contemporaries, although there's a few of them I adore and I really worship. I love Javier Bardem. I love Colin Firth. I love Meryl. I love Kate Blanchett, who I worked with her with you. And there's a lot of my contemporaries who I really love and admire. But like a shot, you say to me, "Who do I want to work with?" And I go, "Well, I want to work with Bogart. I want to work with someone like that." Who's someone from the Turner Classic movie timeline, if you will, that you would love to make a movie with?
Appear in or direct?
Direct. Write a movie and then direct an actor or actress.
I would have liked to have directed W.C. Fields. That would have been a great, great treat for me. And certainly the Marx Brothers. both would have been workouts, I know, but I would have liked to have done that. And I would have liked to have directed Jerry Lewis, because Jerry Lewis was an immense talent who always squandered it on silliness. And I think if you could control him and focus him in the right comedy, he could deliver for you in a really, really spectacular way. But all his stuff was silly, and he had control of the pictures, and they were, foolish pictures for the most part. But there's always moments of greatness. The picture will be terrible, you can't sit through it, but there'll be a moment of greatness in it. And of course, I would have liked to have directed, although I couldn't do much better, Bob Hope, who
Really?
I was a big fan of Bob Hope. I always find myself defending him because people always think of him as that Republican who was always doing, Miss America jokes and him. But if you look at Monsieur Bouquet, for example, and even a terrible film like Casanova's Big Night, he's brilliant in it. The film is, of course, silly in it, but don't worry about that. Focus on how great a comedian he was. But Monsieur Bouquet is quite a wonderful film, and it's Hope at his best. He's really great. I give you those two. There are others I could give you, but
Sure. Now, did Groucho write for the New Yorker?
yes, Groucho, the New Yorker wanted him to write for them, and Groucho did write. And in years gone by, he wrote for the New Yorker and wrote funny pieces. And when I was writing for the New Yorker, my editor was Roger Angel, and he asked me if I was friendly with Groucho, if I could prevail upon him to come back and write more for the New Yorker, because they welcomed him. But he wrote some very funny things. If you look at some of the published letters or his book Beds, or he was Confessions of a Mangy Lover or something. It's funny.
Well, your wife is a lucky woman to get to go to Europe with you again in the fall, to go to Paris.
Lucky for many reasons. That's just one.
Give her my love. Give her my love. The book is Zero Gravity. We know who the author is. Here's his obligatory picture.
Yeah.
Sweater, the corduroys, the whole bit.
In front, I posted the book.
Posing in front of, I have two friends, and you may be the third one. I have two friends who have those homes in Manhattan where there's an entire wall covered with literally thousands of books in hardcover and paperback. I only have two friends who they've actually read all the books. They've read them.
No, I haven't read them. I cover the walls with them because books are warm, and they give the feeling, the illusion of literacy and warmth to the room. But you don't have to write the books. A lot of people just have the spines of the books, and the
It's like wallpaper.
paper bottles.
I always say, you know what you're doing. You know what you're doing. It's amazing. Woody Allen, Zero Gravity. My thanks to you. You and I heard they're going to do research now and do testing on people who didn't get COVID. I was out all the time because I had to work. I went and shot a TV series for Peacock. But what I realized was that every time I went into a room with any people, I masked. I always wore a mask. And I believe that that's why I didn't get COVID, because I didn't get COVID. And it's a miracle.
Oh, yeah, I wore a mask too, and gave a wide berth to anyone on the street.
Yeah.
Walking.
I was cautious.
I followed every protocol, but it's also a measure of luck, because the city was crawling with it for the last, not just the city, but the country was crawling.
Well, I give you
the
tip of my visor. I tip my visor to you.
The visor.
My love to you, and thanks for doing this with me. I appreciate it.
Oh, thanks for chatting. It was nice to see you.
You too. Great to see you as always.
Have a great rest of the summer.
Thank you. You too. I'm going to record this. I'm going to record this and post it. Hold on one second.
Also save it.
I'm going to mute this.
Okay, I think we're done. I think we're done.
That's it?
Yeah, we're done. Okay, so it's gonna be.
It's 11:19.
Let's see, how do I save it? Yeah,
I'll
get out of this. Leave.
meet you.
Yes, upstairs. Second floor. If you want to rejoin, I can leave.